All right, folks, I'm back with another map briefing. This one is going to be the Forest Stream. This is a Conquest map, or I'm doing the Conquest version of the map. You know me, I like Conquest, so let's go ahead and hop into it. So, first things first, the points themselves. So, point B is in this orchard here. You may remember this from Burnside's Bridge. This is kind of the CSA fort they sometimes pull back to, and you'd also remember it from Otto and Cherrick because the Union gets this stone wall to shoot down at the CSA. So anyways, that is that point. The Union, again, it kind of depends on how they decide to spawn the sides. Union spawns over there. The CSA, here, said we were going to talk about the points, but we're not. But the CSA spawns pretty much on the Hills counterattack map, kind of in the middle of it, right there. I think you actually see my body. Yeah, so anyways, there's that, and then they run by point A. Since we're here in point A, there is point A. We'll take a look at point C last. That'll be a fine place to talk about kind of strats on this map. This is an odd map for how close the batteries are. This battery here, I actually didn't spawn in one of these first, so I don't recall. It certainly seems closer to CSA spawn than Union. The Union battery, if it is the Union battery, at least the other battery, I mean, they're this close. They could pretty much just fight each other for whichever battery they wanted, is there. This battery pretty much only has, like, fire in and around point B. Point A, if you didn't see it, it's heavily wooded. There's not too much you can do with it. This battery kind of also has shots in and around B, but they're not great. And point A and point C are largely already immune. It's a rough time to be arty. I don't think that Conquest is a mode that particularly suits arty well, and so I wouldn't recommend taking it, but that's me. Look, it's Conquest, so the name of the game here, more important than remaining in formation, though that does help. The real name of the game, the way you win, is by controlling at least one more flag. So either 1-0 or 2-1 would be one more. You could have 2-0, you could have 1-0, you could play 3-0. Then that's the counterattack dynamic. But anyways, you want to try to have up one more of these flags than the other side. And so the way I would tell people to think about this is to think about what are the pivot points on a map. You want to potentially be able to cap any one of them if you have to. This is true even if you are up, say, 2-1 or 1-0. You want to try to be able to get one more if the other side is not defending it. If they're going for a really dang flank, if you've pushed them out of some of the better areas because you control the pivot points, you should be able to get to any one position more quickly than they are. So anyways, so we're going to take a look at those pivot points and talk about these points as pairs. So to me, in general, I would hate to have to defend A. I mean, the CSA, it makes sense to get it on your way in. It is on the way in. And from there, you got to decide as to whether you go C or B. And for the Union, it's kind of a similar story. Point B is on your way. Well, certainly if you're going to go to point C. And point C is kind of equidistant from both. Though for some reason, I thought the CSA in the past got there more quickly. That's really not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about how you would space out the defense of any one of these point pairs. So spoiler alert, I think BC, so holding B and C is probably the easiest point pair to hold. Now both sides on this one have only 3 companies because both have a cav group. So whatever. If you had about half of your forces here, it's not quite the nipple, but it's similar to it, and that log pile is a good approximation of the center point of the map. From there, you could push. It's about the equal distance to any one point, but from here, it's wide open, and you can see who's going to come where. And if you haven't heard anything for a while, you want to try to maintain contact with the enemy. This is true again, even if you're up 2 points. They're probably trying a flank if things are down, or they've gone all in on one point, and you need to know that so that you can push the point that they have left undefended. But from this position, it's very easy and quick to get back to B, and it's not that hard to pull yourself out of this fence fort and begin putting fire down on point C. And I think the other half of your force should be in and around this clump of trees. They can flex as needed up to that snake fence. They can flex to that snake fence. And what they're doing in both cases is they're shooting into an open field. So that's the one that covers point C. I don't know why anybody would, well, the CSA at least initially have to come through this. And so if you're not holding up at the log pile, you're holding further down, that's fine. But if you had half your forces here and the other half were over in that dirt field, they could simply pull up here to this fence, and they could cut down any group who was trying to push here. And any group who's in this set of woods here would be able to move over pretty quickly. If the other side full sends to B, they could do that. And if you have both sides up, so you got half your force there and half there, and they say they full send C, you can't really do that much on the boundary. There's a little bit of room for really dang flanks. We're about to hear the end of round thing go off here. But you can go out a ways here. So if you do detect that, and your scouts put that in chat or however it is you're communicating in that round, then the group that was closest to B should either push to A or help in the defense of C. And it's important for the group that is initially engaged, that risks being overwhelmed, they need to know whether to fight or to flee. Neither one of those is a problem as long as it matches what the other friendlies are doing, right? So if the other friendlies are going to come up and support, then go ahead and fight and make it bloody for C. But if the other friendlies are just going to go to A, then it makes sense to sit back, shoot, drain the tickets, don't get wiped. Because that's what the other side, particularly if the other side is down, that's what they're looking to do. Look, it's conquest. Flags are really important. They're always really important. Never underestimate the ability to send people in, particularly to point A, because it's just so hard to see who's coming from where. Sending a group in there for a quick decap of the enemy, and that might draw them out of position elsewhere. But anyways, that's some thoughts on that. Look, if you go for a C and an A hold, okay, you can do part of it if you hold C with that tree line and then this tree line over here. Right, you can get some cover and concealment for that, and so that could work. The problem is how you go about defending A. If the rest of your force defends up here, then you can be flanked really far over that way. Granted, you only have to turn around and go back to A, but now you're fighting in wood against a force of unknown size. So I think if you have C and A, this is going to sound a lot like my recommendation for the first one. I still think you're looking at this log pile. I still think that that's where the defense has to come from, because you can pivot from any point as needed, and you can see, you can't see everything from here, but you can see a lot, and you can send scouts out, and you can move quickly to either support C, right? If most of your force is down here in the tree line, you're not that far away that you can come and support them. Or if they've gone on a really dang flank to A, you could always run and try to grab B and then hold B and C and turn the tables on them, and I think you get into an even better pairing. If you end up holding A and B and you chose to do that, I don't know what to tell you. B is very defensible. Again, you can use the stone wall for it. You can use the fence. It's overlooking open ground. The approaches are not well concealed, even if they try to go through corn or something like that. But trying to hold A as well as holding B, it probably means you have to be further forward up, maybe on, guess what? This log pile, to see if anybody's moving from C to A, because that's all they're holding is C, and you know they're going for another point. But from here, if you're going to run off, the group that's holding back there is probably not going to be able to support you once you go into those woods. So I think there is a dominant, it's not always the case, but I think that there is a dominant point pairing in this map. And I think hedging by holding C and B and keeping your forces close enough to flex to either or any point is key. But control over that T-junction and log pile, as well as this kind of quasi-nipple overlooking the open field, for either side, those are going to be good points to hold. All right, so the music is telling me my time is almost over. That's fine with me, because I really don't have anything more to say. That's Forest Stream. It's Conquest mode. It's great. I look forward to bringing you more.